Let's not. Huh. Well, you're twin. You have twin boys, 18-year-olds.
18.
Yeah. How old's the other one?
He's 17.
Oh well, geez, right there.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're coming up live here on YouTube. I'm starting to see it. Kelsey will let us know in the background that we are ready to go. So some of this just over talk. Look at that. Here we go.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Excellent. All right. Good. I can see that we're live over there and coming up. Fantastic. Yes. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you to my whole team that makes this happen. If this were live in Tucson, they would have spent the last 10 days, including today and cleaning up tomorrow, physically working on this project. And we've done it before, and the amount of labor it takes to produce an event. So in some ways, this has been nice because we're kind of like, so what do you want for lunch? I'm going to go to the restaurant on the corner and buy it. So they've been terrific. Everyone has. Kelsey's been monitoring the chat box. Terrific stuff. Kieran is always here to assist us. Michelle's been coming in and out on things. They're also doing fulfillment today and sending out books that people have ordered this weekend. So they've been terrific. It's been great. So Kelsey, let me know when you're, she says she's ready. So she's hearing us. That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last live stream from the virtual Tucson Festival of Books, from our space in the virtual exhibit hall, doing virtual lives. What a weekend this has been since we started. I actually started doing interviews on Friday night, all the way through yesterday, a bunch of them, and then today. And what we're going to do this afternoon to wrap up is we're just going to have some fun. That's all this is. We're just going to talk about some stuff. So let me pull up my screen so I can get in there. I'm going to have the other people introduce themselves in just a moment. But just want to tell you that what we're going to talk about is what's coming soon, what's going to be new, what's exciting coming up. We've had a bunch of interviews yesterday with illustrators, authors. We talked about the oral storytelling tradition and how that influences your work as an author. We had a kidlit panel, fantastic stuff. In the evening, Mark and I really went through, so you want to publish a book? We had that. We just have loads of quotable material now from all of these things that we've been doing. It's just been so powerful and stuff. And then today, we talked about what have you learned on your journey. This afternoon, again, Mark and I kind of talked through, so what do publishers want in an author? And that was a really nice session. And now here we are. Whew. Let's talk. So I'd like my panel to introduce themselves just briefly, and I'll go in the order that I see them on my screen. And so the very first person who gets to speak is Marc Severson. So Mark, introduce yourself.
Oh, wow. I'm first on your screen this time.
You are?
Marc Severson. I've been a storyteller for over, a long time. My wife says all my life.
Yeah.
But professionally since about 1985. And an author since I retired from being a school teacher. And I was also an archaeologist for a long time. So school teacher, archaeologist, school teacher, and storyteller. So that's me. Now author.
School teacher, yep. Scientist, storyteller, all those S words. Good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Next on my screen is Laura. Hey, Laura, go ahead.
Hi, Sean. So like Mark, I've done a lot of things with my life. I've been a performing artist, a storyteller for not quite as long as Mark, but pretty close. I am an author. I've been a writer for my entire life, as I've been a storyteller for my entire life. I'm the author of From Audience to Zeal, the ABCs of Finding, Crafting, and Telling a Great Story Through Small-Toothed Dog, which Sean is holding up so nicely. You make a beautiful Vanna, Sean. And very nice. I am also a cook, a thinker, a giggler, a reader of some really crappy material that just is delightful and urges me along. Professionally, I'm also a coach. I'm a storytelling coach. I'm a creativity coach. And I do work with organizations to help those organizations identify, hone, and use their stories more effectively so they become more humane and more connected places.
Very nice. Thank you for that. I forgot to show Mark's book because he's got a book with us. Don't Throw Me in the Toilet Patch. Both Mark's book and Laura's book have gold stickers on them. So that means there's an award somewhere for these great books. Very pleased with that. Thank you for that, Laura. Gerri, you are next on my list. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Gerri Varas. I am a local yoga teacher here in Chandler. And my practice and my teachings are for healing. And I've dedicated my practice to that, true connections and healing through those connections, and recognizing that we all suffer at one point in our time. And that's what the one thing we all have in common is this great suffering, but we can overcome it. And that's the concept of our book, overcoming that test anxiety through the philosophies of yoga.
Cool. And we will come to that in just a moment. So that's good. Gerri, thanks for popping in. This is your first live stream with us, which is the last one. So congratulations. So there we go. Good. Thank you for doing that. Tamera, you're next. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Tamera Norwood. I'm a youth librarian and a writer. I write for young children and that middle grade audience. I'm working with Sean on 2 books for upcoming publication. One is a picture book, and the other is a nonfiction book that Gerri and I are actually writing together. So I'm so pleased to be here.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You've been on a couple of these with us now, so that's good. Thanks. I'm Sean Buvala. I'm the publisher at the Small Tooth Dog Publishing Group. And like Mark and Laura, frankly, I've been doing what I do as a performer, as a teacher, author for decades, and doing that. The latest book that I have released is called The Moon Was Not Happy, which is a story that I've been telling. I really stopped and looked at it when I started telling this story, and it goes back to 1987 was when I first wrote it. So it just come out in the book now. So time does its thing. And I also have co-written books with my wife, Michelle, things like The Fox and the Crow, which is art and stories inspired by Aesop. So we have a number of books out, including Daddy Teller, which was the very first book that I ever wrote. And we've talked about that in all the other virtuals. So that's good. On our monitoring on the chat box is Kelsey. And thanks for being with us, Kelsey. Phyllis, I see you're back. Thank you for that. If you have questions or thoughts as we go through today, this is fun. This is casual. Put them in the box. We'll try to answer what we can. So we'll go from there. So what we want to do today is talk a little bit about things that are coming. And one of the things that people sometimes don't know when they're publishers is how long it takes to get a book out. It's not like in January you go to a publisher and they publish, they say yes, and then in March you have a book. Mark and I were talking yesterday that Don't Throw Me in the Choya Patch was a 2-year journey. It took a couple of years to make that happen. So it takes time, but I have to know as a publisher what's coming. And so we do a lot of advertising in major indie bookstore catalogs. Please support your local indie bookstore. And so we do advertising to 4,000 or 5,000 bookstores at a time, twice a year. And we put different books out and things like that. And they're ads like this. And sometimes the ads come out before the books are finished, which has happened with my Ultimate Guide book. It's been advertised several times. It is not done. Oh, well, these things happen. But so we have to know really ahead of time what's coming, what's down, what's coming up, what's going to happen soon, because we need to plan for advertising and all of that stuff. So it takes a while for things to get rolling. So I'm going to kick this off, and then Laura, I think, is going to pop in here next. So some of the new stuff that we have coming that actually is written by me, and then all these other authors have things to talk about theirs. I'm very excited about the Kids' Ultimate Guide to Creating Fun and Fantastic Stories for Telling. Just have a great artist who put some work in there. This is a workbook type thing. We have released a workbook with Laura too, which was great. But this one's really aimed at kind of that 4th, 5th, 6th grade piece, that kind of place in there to teach them how to tell stories, how to write stories, how to create a story. So it's not just throw a pencil at a kid and say, write something, but we walk them through that. So that book is planned to be out next January officially. I'm hoping to get it out in the fall, but that's when it comes out from there. And we're also working more on some of that 4th, 5th, 6th grade reading level stories, folk tales, fairy tales, etc. but ones that kind of make a kid go, ooh, which is what we want to have happen. We want that moment where when a kid is surprised by a folktale. And so I've got a series coming out. The first book in that is called Magpies, Crows, and Maggots, which is a great story. Great story that happens to you if you steal the blood of the bride and the groom. Oh, so good. So that's going to be moving forward for us soon. I'm not sure what the art's going to be on that. We've been working with an artist, but I don't know if he's going to finish the work. So we had a temporary cover for that, and that's that one. So that's a lot of fun to be looking at more folk tales and fairy tales told for that audience we think ripe, just absolutely ripe for kind of tales. It's just so much fun. That's good. So that's a couple of our things. I've got some more to show you in a bit, but I want to hear from some other people. Laura, we talked about you kind of popping in here and talking about your next project with us. We've already done Audience to Zeal, but what's next?
So before I talk about that, Sean, let me just say I love the idea of a book of gross folktales for middle schoolers. That is just delicious in a gross kind of way. So I'm really looking forward to that. Good job. So my work lately has veered more and more and more into creativity coaching, particularly as we move further, as the pandemic continues, although things are getting better, but we are still all living under some unusual circumstances. But even before that, I had more and more people coming to me and saying, I need some help tapping into my own creative self, though that might not have been their language. And what I have come to realize through working with these folks is that when someone says, I am a creative person, that usually has sort of a capital C creative, and that we've come to think of creativity as this thing that takes work, and that it is weighty, even if it's playful creativity, which is one of my favorite kinds of creativity, but that it removes the creativity that might come from the dinner that you're making, or might come from how you organize your books on the shelf. So, Sean, we are going to be producing together. I'll be writing and you'll be producing a workbook, a playbook on creativity for everyone. So people who want to tap into their own creative spirit a little bit more. And I got excited about this because I don't know about you, but I love those kinds of workbooks. I buy workbooks that give me a place to dream on paper or opportunities to dream elsewhere. I particularly like the work of Carrie Smith, if you're familiar with her. And I realized I love these things. I could make one of these things, and that I could bring a spin to it that I think many other authors haven't, because I'm a storyteller. So that I could bring this storytelling sensibility into the work and play of enhancing your own creativity. So that's where I am so far.
Who do you think will be the primary audience for that? I mean, I know you're going wide with this, but who are we really
probably people in the middle of their lives, people who have responsibilities and obligations, and remember when they were younger how they used to be bolder and braver, people who used to go out singing karaoke every weekend, or used to do creative projects, and now they have a knitting project that they haven't picked up in a year, and don't have time to do more. I suspect the audience for this will be more likely to be women, but men are absolutely welcome. People of any gender, wherever you fall in gender, are absolutely welcome to play with this. But I suspect that it's the kind of thing that might be more, if it were in a bookstore, it would probably be in the adult creativity section, which is more frequently frequented by women.
Right.
Which is a shame, because I think men really need to be able to touch their own creative spirit as well, be in touch with their own creative spirit. But I think it'll be people in the middle of their lives who have busy, full lives and are yearning for something that they still have, but may no longer know how to access as easily.
Intriguing. Yeah. When you first said that, first brought the idea out, I thought, it falls completely in line with that, because our mission statement says creativity in it. So, it fell right in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited about bringing that kind of narrative side of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and to really
how can
play
you
with.
play with your own story?
Mhm.
So not just, and my hope is that none of the activities in this will be individually high stakes, hard to do, but that hopefully if you do a bunch of them, that you will find some emerging story about yourself coming up, some new story. But then how do you play with, if you take a glue stick and a thumb drive, what kind of story can you come up with these two things? So that kind of play, using narrative as a way to tap into our deeper creative spirit, but making it really low risk. I mean, I don't know how many people, I know that I used to love to draw when I was a kid, as an example. And then when I got to a certain age, people told me I couldn't draw. So as an adult, I draw with crayons and construction paper, because it doesn't matter if it looks like a fifth grader, a 5-year-old, excuse me, a 5-year-old drew it, which is kind of what it looks like. What matters is that I'm accessing that part of me that still loves to draw. So in terms of narrative, what if you start drawing your story and you're not worried about the drawing, but you're having fun drawing the story? What if you draw a map of the places you've been that day and see how that becomes a story? What if you draw that map and then imagine an ant walking along that map? What story would the ant tell? So there are all kinds of ways that we can come up with creative play that has a narrative thread running through it.
Right.
And then if we take the time to look at those individual pieces, we may notice some overarching themes, which could be informative about where we are in our lives and how we might build more creativity into our everyday story of life.
Yep.
Does that make sense, what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
Sure.
There you go. Person who's heard it for the first time. Yes. That's right. Yeah. And it's interesting. Phyllis says that she will be buying your book.
Oh, thank you, Phyllis. I really appreciate that.
I do think that stuff resonates. I think all of and I know the book that Gerri and Tamera are working on together is really going to resonate with families. And we'll come to that in a moment. But I think those types of things that resonate so strongly with people, and creativity and freedom and thinking, I just love it. I think it's good. And actually, I'm going to talk about, go ahead.
Let me just finish this one thought and then I'll be quiet.
No, it's fine.
I also think it's important right now, because no matter where you are in your pandemic experience, it has changed everything. And so we've had to be really agile in adapting to that. So whether you're in a community that's opened up or whether you're in a community that's still closed, you need to be agile in figuring out how to adapt to this changing world. You need to be creative. And I think that right now we're spending a lot of energy figuring out what is this new world and maybe feeling separate from our more playful, creative selves. So my hope is that this will also offer a bit of a path to reconnect with those kinds of things, especially right now in this part of human history.
Yes. Good. Thank you for that. That's terrific. I'm really looking forward to making that happen. And, whether we hit it by next March, we'll see. We have a lot of conversation in front of us, and I think the challenge in that book is not so much the content, because I'm not concerned at all about you writing the content, but it's the format, how we eventually format that book and produce it. We got to find a balance somehow. And this is always a challenge for us, because libraries, in case there's any librarians in the call today, librarians, it's hard to sell consumables to libraries, because you don't want a bunch of books to be written in on your shelves, right? I mean, that's just a thing. But how to do a companion volumes, maybe more of a journal piece, as you're talking about, a workbook, but also more of a reflection piece too. So that's always a challenge.
We'll talk about that, Sean. I have some ideas that might be useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good.
So
all right,
just
Laura,
so
thanks
you
for
and
sharing
everybody else, so you and everybody else know, I'm sorry. I will have to drop out before the call ends, but I'm really happy to be here. So thank you.
It's been good to be with you this weekend. Thank you for that. I appreciate that very much. I want to jump, because that's all that creativity and kind of thinking that way. Let's jump into the work that Gerri and Tamera are doing together on their book. And so I'm just going to throw it open to the two of you and say, let's talk about kind of the high level of what's going to happen with the book that you're working on. Kind of give us a taste of that.
Do you want to go, Gerri?
No, you go ahead, honey.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, what you said earlier, that even though we're writing this book, using principles of yoga to help kids get through anxiety, our target audience, obviously it's going to be that age group from 10 to 18, but it's also the families and the educators that are around them, because children don't live in a bubble. You can't say you can do this to make your life better, but what happens if the people around you aren't in line with what it is that you're trying to accomplish? And so the work that we're doing is addressing, how a young person, test anxiety, for instance, starts at around second grade and goes all the way through college. But we're targeting those young people who can read, so that there's a component where they're reading to themselves. It's self-help healing for themselves. But then companion to that, on the opposite page will be the information for the adults saying, this is how you can support. These are the things that you thought you were doing to be helpful, but this is how you can help in a different way, and trying to make it a family event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a critical piece for me in the conversations we've had, is that this has to be a family thing. And as we produce books, I always try to think in terms of stuff for kids is always about that family of origin, whatever it is for them now. They have to be able to interact with that. We can't just drop something and say, okay, go to it, kids, when the parents don't understand anything they're doing. So I love the fact that you guys brought that energy to this project.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gerri, go ahead.
This is a passion project for us both. I mean, this is coming from a conversation that we had after a yoga class where I was talking about my sons having test anxiety, and they've had special help in school, IEPs, and just every time they would take a test, they would just stress out about it. And I thought, this is so unnecessary. Why are kids still having this test anxiety? I mean, I lived with it my whole life, and I'm witnessing it again within my own children. But on a broader sense, a lot of kids have test anxiety. And so we kind of like put two and two together, and we're really passionate about it. We really think that these philosophies, we can keep them very secular. They're, of course, they're stemming. This is the book that we're referring to, Yamas and Niyamas, the ethics and guidelines of yoga. But they can fit in any situation. And I really think that we can do a lot of good with the book, and it's going to help not just the parents and the kids to rethink. We had this interview with a young lady, and her concept of herself was, I'm a leader, but leaders don't need help. And if I can't make it in high school, I won't be able to make it in life. And so she's already sold herself short. And leaders can look like anything. You don't have to be good in math to be a leader. You just need compassion and kindness. So hopefully it changes the way youngsters are looking at themselves.
In the workshop right before this, I was talking about what publishers look for. Many times authors think that what they're bringing to a publisher is just a book, but that's the old days. And now it's very much about the author and the authors, the contributors in this case, being coachable, being ready to, my chair is falling apart. I think it's had all of the live streams it can take. I don't know what's going on, but being coachable. And so I know that when we first started talking about this, the three of us, I would say go out and dig through other people and get some interviews. And y'all are doing that. Talk about coachable. I said, go do that. And then in like 3 days, Tamera sent me a list of, okay, is this a good release form? You know, and it's like, all right, so people are willing to build, not just come with the idea and publish my book or else, but okay, let's build,
Yeah.
let's make a bigger thing. And you guys are doing that. So you've done a couple of interviews already?
Yeah, it's
We've done
been
4. Yeah, 4 so far. We have probably another 8 lined up. We feel like we need to have more material than less to be able to draw from. And, you know, it's amazing, Sean, so many people see their children suffering through test anxiety, and they had it themselves too. And they are so anxious to participate and help. So yeah, it's been a great experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you guys are really doing the work. And
Thank you.
and it may take us longer to put all that together, but I think that the end result of that, I mean, if we're going to put all the money we're going to put into it, just to speak basely, because I'm a publisher, right? If we're going to put the
Right.
money we're going to put into this project, let's do it right. And I'm very encouraged that you guys are doing it right.
Thank you.
That you're
We're learning. I mean,
Yeah.
great idea, Sean. I mean, it's like a gold mine, and it gives you such a perspective. And it's like, the story isn't just about my kids now. It's like, oh, there are so many kids that are suffering through this needlessly. You know, my one thing is I'm an empathic person. And for me, the worst thing is to see a child suffer. It literally my heart is crushed when I see a child suffer. And if this book can alleviate just one, I'm going to be so happy.
Excellent. Michelle, who is the owner of Small Tooth Dog, she can't be on the call, but is watching the play. A couple of things she said: that she really thinks that Laura's book is really intriguing, which is terrific. And she says, I'm very excited about your book, Gerri and Tamera. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
got
Michelle.
good energy around that as well. So that's terrific. Good. Thank you both for that.
Thank
I
you.
want to switch gears for a moment. Oh, Laura, thank you very much. Okay. We'll talk to you the next time I talk to you. All right.
Thank you.
Laura.
It's a pleasure to see you all.
All right.
Yes.
Very good. Let me switch back to the display here a bit. One of the things that's kind of fun that I wanted to do today was talk a little bit about some of the picture books and children's books that we have coming up. And I just want to show some background things, some fun things that we're working on. You know, you don't often get to play. People often see the final book, but they don't see what the book looks like in its stages of development. So we have just a fun little book coming out. We have a couple of very specific types of books we're looking for right now. And one of them is specifically about oceans and oceanography and the sea, and kind of looking for some books in that series. And so I've put together a book just in that first book that's going to be basically a puppy involved with the ocean. We'll say that for this point. And so I started to put out the calls for artists and things like that. And the artist who we're picking up, and I don't want to tell you a lot about her right now, but the artist that we're picking up, she sent me this off the cuff playing, picture that she sent here. And this is the one she sent. And she says, so something like this, which immediately both Michelle and I went, oh yeah, something like that. Now the character is going to look a little different. I'll show you that in a moment, but just start to play with stuff. And not enough people, and this is some of what Laura hit upon, not enough people play with their work. So she sent us this one, and she said, okay, this will be, is this the way you want to go? And of course, then you start talking to illustrators, and you start building concepts with illustrators and what things are going to look like. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a couple of just rough sketches of the first couple pages of the book. And I've intentionally covered the words on this one because we're still working on that. But this is just some of that initial play that we wanted to have with this, And as an author, I have an image in my head of what this book was going to look like. This is nothing like it. It's really, but I love where this is going. And I've got about 12 out of the 14 spreads. I have 12 of them so far, all sketched out. And not the full work hasn't been done, of course. But she's been hired, and so she started to sketch this stuff out, and we were like, oh, this is really working. This really works. She sent me 20 different drawings of this dog, and I won't tell you his name yet, but 20 different drawings of this dog in different positions and different art and different color and different. So the work of building up something starts way before the book goes in a person's hands. So we started with the sketch, and she said, I don't know, something like this. And I said, well, the playfulness got my attention. So then we started to move into this, and this is just the first couple of spreads about this puppy and his ocean adventure. So we've been having a lot of fun with that for sure. And then the other one I wanted to touch on, and then we'll jump in with Mark and Tamera on some of their stuff. Laura had mentioned picking up things and building stories out of it. So about 5 years ago, during a parenting series I was teaching in schools, we had a bag full of toys that we throw out on the table, and the parents have to pick them up and make stories out of them. And I picked up a mirror, and I model what I teach, right? So I don't just tell people go do it. I say, here's how this works. So I model. So I picked up a mirror, and having not told the story before, there was this whole story that kind of poured out of me about a child who discovers a mirror, and there's a whole bunch of relationships and all kinds of interesting things that happen from there. So that was 5 years ago. Well, I've further fleshed out that story from this toy exercise, and we're starting to play with ideas. And so I've been getting art suggestions from different people. And, this may not be the final where it goes, but this is just one of those things that you take an idea that's in your head as an author, and then you start to put illustrators in front of it, and then they start to play with it. And this is just one of the pieces that one of the many things that authors have submitted to me. This, however, was a picture. When I got this one from the illustrator, I went, yeah, that's what I saw in my head. So it's been really fascinating watching this project develop too, as well, both as the publishing side of it and as the author as well. We've got some other kids' books that are kind of in the hopper right now. So let's kind of jump in on those too. Let's come back here. Mark, let's talk about yours for a bit. We have got, and because this is the last session, most of the books I'm using just fell off the back of the table. So we're going to pretend I'm holding up your book again. Don't Throw Me in the Toy Patch, but it's buried on the other side of the table and I can't get to it. So there we are. You did produce a book with us called Don't Throw Me in the Toy Patch, which is a variant of a trickster tale, a world trickster tale. So what's next? Talk about that.
Okay. From that, I went on to proceed to write 12 more stories about the same character, and sent you parcels of them, and from those we picked out one to be next. And the first book was the Wood Rat and Coyote. The second book is Wood Rat and Badger. Mm-hmm. And Badger is one of my favorite animals, so I really enjoyed writing that one up. And currently, I'm hoping we'll be able to enlist the same illustrator for this one. And I think I've sent you a third draft on it so far, but we haven't sat down to start talking about where we need to be in terms of word count and everything else for it. And in the meantime, in my head, I'm thinking down the line of putting all 13 stories together in one book, something more rather than a picture book, obviously something with some line drawings in it.
Right.
Actually, our illustrator sent line drawings for Badger that you sent me to look at, and they look great.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that maybe he will even, jump in on that one. Mm-hmm. And then just today, I was at a birthday party for two of my grandkids, two of my plethora of grandchildren, and I enlisted several of them because I'm working on a book dealing with myself when I was their age. basically fourth, fifth, sixth grade, my elementary school experience. And I call it the lost, right now the working title is Lost Kings of Elementary School, because the sixth grade used to be in elementary school. And that's the kind of the crux of the whole thing, is how important it was to become the sixth grader in the school, you know, the king of school, as it were. And they've lost that because sixth grade is now in what they call middle school. But anyway, I told them I'm going to be sending them chunks of it, and I want them to tell me what's wrong with it. I said, you can't tell me what you like. You can't tell me that you enjoyed it. You have to tell me what you don't like or what the problem was, because it's my own grandkids. You know, I can't count on them unless I tell them exactly what I need to hear from them. So I'm kind of working on that one. And I was thinking that a lot of what drives me in my writing comes from a phrase that I use at the end of almost all my stories that I tell, and a lot of the stories that I write, and it's from the Zuni, and the translation I use is, "Thus the weight of my story decreases and yours is increased."
Right.
And it's the idea that I want these things to get out of me and give them to someone else, to have, so that they will take them and do what they may. I do have one grandchild who looks to be a storyteller. She's definitely into it.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
I'm looking forward to her continuing that. But it's
Unlike the others who are just liars.
yeah. My wife says, unlike the other ones that are just liars. But but that's kind of been my driving force here as I've entered my 70s, as it were. How terribly strange to be 70. And feeling like I want to get these things out there, you know.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yep. You've got some great, I think in my head, I see a trilogy for the children's book version of Woodrat, but I do definitely see the 10 or 12 other stories that are aimed at a higher age. And maybe we'll be able to pull in that same artist for that. I mean, he's very cooperative and he's very prolific. So lots of stuff that we can put out. So
and
good.
patient.
Yeah, because we've had some stumbling blocks in producing that.
Well,
One
it
of them
just
was
takes
2020.
time. It takes time.
Yeah, the entire year was the stumbling block. So that's good. Let's kind of talk about Tamera. Let's talk about yours. You have another kids book that we're kind of starting to play with, and you know we're in agreement on it. And I've started to play with the illustrator. And can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with that book?
I would love to talk about that book.
Of course you would.
Thank you so much. So, you know, my sweet spot, the things that I love to write are picture books. I feel like that is the most important part of the entire journey of being a reader and a book lover, is when you start out young and you're being read to and you're cuddling with someone you love, and you develop that joy for books. This particular book that you and I are working on is a concept picture book. And its origin is because, as you mentioned, last year was just kind of a dreadful year for everybody, right? But if you're from between the ages of 4 and 6, maybe you were not able to really, you know, internalize everything that was happening or understand. You just know that the people around you are stressed, things aren't going well. Now you have to wear a mask, you can't be with your friends. And comments that I heard from parents and kids in the library made me think, I want to write something that gives them a feeling of security, that, yeah, these things that are not so pleasant that happen around us, they're temporary. But the good things that we really can rely on, they are forever. The sun always rises. You can rely on your family, you know, those kind of things. So for me, it was about trying to create a book that any child would be able to identify with. It doesn't mention anything about the pandemic or anything like that. It's universal themes. I feel like decades from now, if the book is still in print, it's still, people will still be able to recognize that those good things still exist, and that there's nothing in the book that you would have to purchase. All of these things are free. They're free to us all the time because they're in nature, they're in our hearts. They're the good things that other people give to us that don't have any price tags to them.
Yep, I love it. It's in verse, so it's written in verse in quatrains, and it's really nice. That's what we're doing with the puppy book too. We have a very specific style for that. I think the verse for yours is a little looser. I mean, it's still verse, it's all of that, but I was looking at it again yesterday with the illustrator. I was like, yeah, I like where this goes. It's very inviting. It feels safe. All the verses feel safe. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about putting this book together with you. So very nice.
And will you say those magic words again? You were talking with my illustrator. I cannot tell you how much joy that brings me.
So listen, author, I just want you to know that I was talking with your illustrator. Talking with your illustrator.
Ross, it's great. I'm so proud of you.
Proud of us all.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us all. It's terrific. So just looking at some of the comments that we have in here, Michelle saying she's excited about your book. Phyllis was talking about the puppy book, and she says, talking about the pictures that really pulls you in. I want to be on the raft with that pup.
Yeah.
And that project, one of the things I didn't mention about that project is I don't know if I'm going to put my name on that book as author, or if I'm going to use what is essentially a company pen name that we have. And that company pen name is Lillian H. Wren. And the reason I have that pen name is because I don't necessarily want to be writing lots of little kids' books. I mean, I have the skill set as a storyteller to do it. But the Lillian H. Wren pen name, that's kind of the company pen name, is based on my grandmother, who never got her book published. And if you've seen my presentation, about you want to get a book published, I talk about, her goals. She couldn't get a book produced back in the day a long time ago. So we've been using Lillian as our pen name for some of the children's work. And I may put that book, my book, under her pen name. It's kind of an homage to my grandmother. So it's been something I've been working on. Michelle says she loves the Don't Throw Me in the Choya Patch, which is great. And getting some real strong feedback from Michelle about, sounds like a great idea, Tamera, for the book that you are as well. So that's terrific. Wow, that was great. Let me let's pop up some of the back on the screen here. Thank you all for being in part of this. Let's do a little bit of bill paying here. If you have heard all the stuff we've been doing this weekend, Tucson Festival of Books, or what you've heard from us, we have like 7 hours of content now we've produced this weekend. Woo! If you are interested in publishing and you're kind of at the beginning stages of that, we invite you to come to authortip.com, and you can get a checklist from us for free, costs you your email address, right? Checklist from us, are you ready for publishing? And it's a great thing to kind of flip through and say, these are the things I need to think about. There's a little video that goes with it if you want to do that, but that puts you on our mailing list for us to help educate you about what your options are as an author. Whether that's with us as a publisher, I don't know, wherever it is that you're going to do. Maybe you're not writing the kind of stuff we produce. The author tip thing will still help you as well. So authortip.com. And one of the last things that we're working on for wrapping up our virtual weekend at Tucson Festival of Books is we are giving away some t-shirts. These t-shirts are done with a design that Michelle has made. These are really nice shirts. They come in different colors and different neck styles. This design is a lino cut owl, and the owl is the animal for Tucson Festival of Books this year. So Michelle produced this burrowing owl in her style. We have a couple of Sonora animals in this style now. And last year was a circle and a javelina. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah, I hear
you. But we can hear you.
Everything in my office is exploding. Must be time to end. Oh, I lost my camera. That's what happened. Oh, okay. All right. You can hear me though, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So if you would like to get into the the drawing for the t-shirts, which closes at 7 o'clock Arizona time tonight. You can still pop over there to smalltoothdog.com/drawing, smalltoothdog.com/drawing, and enter your name and your email address in there. We'll pull some names tonight. There aren't 1,000 million bazillion entries in there, so your chances are pretty good right now. So pop over and come be part of that, smalltoothdog.com/drawing.
I posted it on 3 of my 9 Facebook pages. So
thank you. Thank you. That's terrific.
Mark, will
Okay,
you,
well,
will you please post on my one Facebook page for me?
Tamera, we are going to continue to work with you on this.
Thank you.
You can do it. Yes, you can.
I am the master of Facebook pages, Tamera. I'm happy to talk to you about it anytime.
You're my new best friend, Mark.
There you go. That's right. Okay, well, all the books I've had for this weekend have fallen behind the desk. The arm of my chair is breaking.
And
my
Sean is
camera
about to fall behind his desk.
My camera has busted, apparently. So now I'm on the reverse or the backup camera. Wow. I want to thank my team today that came in to talk with us, which was Laura Packer and Marc Severson and Gerri Varas and Tamera Norwood, to make sure I got everybody on my list. I've had so many people in here today. So thank you all for coming and talking about just the fun stuff that's coming up in the future. It's been great. Please take a look at all of the videos we've put out for Tucson Festival of Books this week on YouTube. Leave us a like, give us a subscribe, let us know what's happening there. Tell us about what you see and what you've heard in all of our videos this week. So I'm going to ask my team to hang out for just a second, but I'm going to conclude the YouTube, and hopefully my entire office won't catch on fire between now and the time the YouTube closes. All right, here we go. Thank you all for being with us. What a great, fantastic weekend it is. Good.